Welcome back to my fish room. Do you want to feed your fish the best live food possible? Today I'm going to teach you how to hatch and feed baby brine shrimp. If you want your fish and your fish fry to grow fast and healthy, baby brine shrimp is definitely the food that you're going to need. If you are serious about breeding fish, I highly recommend jumping on this food. I use baby brine shrimp pretty much to feed all of the fish in this fish room, minus the plecos. However, many of the tanks that they are actually in also get some baby brines. They do get a little bit every now and again. The reason that I like to feed baby brine shrimp is because it is highly nutritious. It boosts their growth, and I find it really easy just to hatch at home, and I want to show you guys how to do that. So I want to touch on a couple of things of why baby brine shrimp are the best thing to feed your fry, and of course your adult fish as well. So the first thing that I want to bring up is that they are high in protein and nutrients. Baby brine shrimp are packed with protein and help fry grow quicker and develop strong immune systems. This will also help keep them fuller for longer, which increases their survival rate, especially if you're going to work every day. Baby brine is great for especially difficult fry. Sometimes our itty bitty babies don't know what to do, and I find that when you're feeding dry food, it doesn't get that instinct in them to take a bite. Baby brine is great because it is a live food, so it's going to swim around the water column. Once it's swimming around, it triggers that instinct for those babies to actually jump out and take a bite and to chase the food. So I've had fry that didn't want to eat. I've had multiple batches that I would be feeding dry food or I'd be feeding a powder food, and they wouldn't eat it because they didn't know that they needed to do that because their instinct wasn't kicking in. Because the shrimp contains carotenoids, this helps bring out the vibrant colors in fish, especially red, orange, and yellow fish. They are also very, very small, so they are perfect to feed to newly hatched fry. So some of the main fish that I feed baby brine to is guppy fry. Guppy fry love it and they grow quick on it, perfect for them. All of my angel fry I feed baby brine to. I also feed my little blue-eye rainbow fish, so the pseudomogals. I feed them microworms to begin with, and as soon as they get large enough to be able to take baby brine, I will give them baby brine. All of my adult fish in this fish room on baby brine. So without talking about it anymore, we're gonna show you how to hatch and feed these brine shrimp. Now I'm also gonna show you a little DIY hatchery option. Otherwise you can definitely buy hatcheries online or at your local fish store, but I will show you how to make one on the cheap. So let's start with a couple of things that you're gonna need to set this project up. The first thing you guys are gonna need is you're gonna need some empty soda bottles or pop bottles, depending on where you're from. I like to use this shape here in the background, as you can see. Lovely. They are Schweppes bottles. Now, what you're looking for is that that cone shape at the top of the bottle. That gives you a really good base for those brine shrimp to fall into. So they're not going to get caught on any ridges or anything like that. So what you want is a soda bottle or a water bottle or something that has that sort of cone shape at the top where the cap is. The next thing you guys are going to need is an air pump of some sort. I really like this one. It doesn't matter which one it is. You just need an air pump to blow bubbles into that bottle. And then, of course, some airline tubing. So this is just flexible airline tubing, works great. Also use these for my DIY hatcheries. This is just a cap, like a universal Coke bottle, Schweppes bottle, whatever cap that I've just bought off eBay. It has like a cone in it that an airline can be attached to. And then finally, you are also going to need an air valve, something that you can turn off and on so you can control the air that is going into the bottle, but also being able to control the flow as the water comes out. Now, that is everything that you need to create the hatchery. Otherwise, there are some wonderful hatcheries that are available online and at your local fish stores and things like that. I know this hatchery is a #1 favorite in the community. I'm actually even getting myself some Zeus hatcheries soon, which I'm really excited about. They should be coming next week, so I finally get to upgrade. But I have been running this DIY system for 2.5 years, and I've only made them once. So I've had these bottles literally for 2.5 years. This system works. You don't have to go and spend all that money on anything. This will work just fine if you're just getting started and you're not willing to put that outlay and you know, invest in something just yet. And that is totally fine. So beautiful, easy, breezy brine shrimp. Let's go. Okay, so to make our hatchery, we're just gonna use, I've got this Pepsi bottle that I'm gonna use. Probably not gonna use this hatchery as I've already got my 2 going and I am getting some new ones soon, but I definitely wanna give you a step-by-step guide on how to make them. It is so easy, but just in case I talk about it and you guys are like, what is she talking about? God knows. So I'll show you exactly how to do it. All right, I just moved you back a little bit so you guys can see what's happening. So the first thing you're gonna do is remove the label. It's kind of important. You wanna be able to see inside your hatchery. Boom. Next thing we are gonna do, we're gonna cut the top off. So I cut, like, so if you have a look on here, see how it like ridges down? I just literally cut there, like just below it. There's actually a line on this bottle that you can follow. So I'm not particularly like worried about it. I just sort of cut, like, definitely be careful because obviously anything that you cut open that's plastic, like a rigid plastic, is gonna be sharp. But I haven't had any issues with that. Like I literally am just putting salt and stuff in it, so. Quality, bye. All right, we got our top, we got the bottom. I am gonna give it a rinse out now though. We remove the cap. Don't need this bit. Goodbye, thanks for coming. And then we get this cap that I bought. Like I said, I bought them on eBay and I'm pretty sure they were like $1 each. I highly recommend going. If I can find it, I'll put a link to it in the description below because I'm pretty sure they're still there, but I bought like 10 of them and I've used 2. So, because you never know if you need more, but that is what we're looking at. That is our bottle. Look at that, she's beautiful. Now we're gonna add really important bits. So we're gonna go and get some airline tubing. All right, we got our airline tubing and it's just gonna fit over the top of this bit here, which it does really nicely actually, because that bit's actually pointed. So it's a bit easier to get it into your airline. I like to get it on as far as possible. It just gives it like a really nice, make sure it's nice and secure. Probably gonna chop it like, yeah, about there. So we've chopped it down. We don't need a very long bit. We're gonna get our little air valve and we're gonna poke it through. You could also actually probably use irrigation stuff as well if you wanted to. As long as it flows really nicely and is easy to like rinse through, fine. So we've got our little valve on there. That's what we're looking like. Now what this bit is gonna do is it's gonna connect to the airline that's connected to your air pump. Really important because that bit is what's gonna flow air into this bottle. So I'm gonna show you what that looks like. So as you can see here, I've got just a different kind of valve. Same thing though, it's just allowing air to come through and is also allowing flow to come out when this is off. So this airline tubing is actually attached to this air pump, which if we go back to here, this air it goes all the way up here. And then I've got it attached to this gang valve, which will run, these 2 are the hatcheries, and then I've got this extra one that is attached to an air stone, which I will touch on a little bit later on what that will do. So that's for later, feedings for a little bit later. So now that will run air all the way through, down here, and into our bubbling hatcheries, which are bubbling away because we are making shrimp for feeding tonight. So we're gonna set up one of these hatcheries to hatch out some brine shrimp to feed our fish. So the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is get yourself, I use tank water or dechlorinated water would be fine. I know that some people also use just their normal tap water, but I use just aged tank water. So I just grab a scoop out of a tank that I've got going. Then I'm gonna add some cooking salt. Now I add in about 4 of these teaspoons. Now this is just a normal teaspoon that you can get from like the kitchen. I just pop my salt in a little container just so it's easier for me to manage. But I heap my teaspoons like that and I pop it in the water that I'm going to use. I've got another teaspoon. Anything just to stir it up. What you want to do is make sure that all of this salt has dissolved within the water. So I just stir it up for a little bit and it dissolves itself. All good. So I'm using roughly 750 mils of water, and I find that the 4 teaspoon ratio works really well for us and has the perfect salinity to hatch our brine shrimp. Now, different places, different water, different salt. It'll give you all different ratios. So the best thing to do, I would have a starting point, maybe where like what I've done here, and then sort of experiment with it to see if you can get the perfect salinity that suits you. Or even better, go to your local fish store and see what's working for them. Okay, so I've got my hatchery here. Now this is the one that I've already drained today, which I will show you a little bit later. Sorry, that is my lovely German Shepherd wanting to be involved. I'm gonna grab my DIY hatchery. Now, this hatchery is 2.5 years old, like I said, so yes, it is a little cloudy, but it works just fine. So what we're gonna do now is pour my 750 ml of salt water into my hatchery. Like so. We've popped our salt water in. Now what we're going to do is hook it up to our air. Now my valve is still closed at the moment, but what we're going to do is test it. So I turn my gang valve on, which is up here, and then I go ahead and open this valve up. And there we go, we've got air. She's bubbling away now, it doesn't need a lot. Now that I've got my air bubbling through my salt water in, I'm going to go ahead and add in my brine shrimp eggs. I like to add in 2.5 teaspoons. And that means that I will be able to feed all tanks. I've got roughly about 50 tanks running, so I do need quite a bit of brine shrimp. If you are feeding one tank or one grow out tank, you don't need this much. You would potentially only need 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon of brine shrimp, but of course, as I'm feeding many fish, I have many mouths to feed, we need this much. Now, I also heat my room, which I have mentioned in previous videos, but this room is sitting at a comfortable 25, which means my brine shrimp eggs are also sitting at roughly 25 degrees, which is a great sort of temperature for them to hatch quite quickly. I understand that not everyone has a heated room to hatch their brine shrimp in. Another method of doing this is to just get like a desk lamp and shine a desk lamp. So this will heat the water up to a nice degree for those brine shrimp eggs to hatch. So I find that ours hatch about 48 hours because I get the most out of the batch that I'm hatching. So we're gonna wait 48 hours now and we're gonna come back and then I'll show you how to drain them, harvest the brine shrimp and get rid of all the eggs. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna harvest our brine shrimp. All I do for this step is shut this valve off so that the water is not bubbling anymore and we're gonna let it settle. Now, this can take anywhere between 1 minute to 10 minutes. What you don't want to do is leave these shrimp in here with no oxygen for a prolonged period of time, usually about 10, I don't like to go over 10 minutes. The other thing I like to do is just get a light source underneath so that they all travel towards the light and make it easier for us to harvest. All of the brine shrimp have collected down here, so you can see them all there, nice and golden. And then up here is all of the eggs. So this now makes it nice and easy for us to harvest them. So I'm gonna take away my light source because we don't need that now. I use this brine shrimp net. I have a 1 litre jug here as well. So that fits really nicely over the 1 litre jug that I have. I then remove my air hose. I remove my air hose like that. And then I open this valve up and out come my brine shrimp. So I like to let it drain all the way down. Slow it down a little bit because we want to see the eggs coming through. I like to catch it just there. You can actually see that the eggs have stopped sort of just above the valve there. I like to get every single tiny bit out of my hatchery, but that's where I like to stop. All of our brine shrimp have collected in there and we have water in the bottom. So now the next step is to set aside some brine shrimp for tomorrow. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I got my collected brine shrimp and then I also have this jar that I use every day. This is just like an old pasta sauce jar that I've used, that I've saved. So just a glass jar. What I like to do is I fill it up about halfway with the salt water that I have collected from the brine shrimp. So this is what they've been in. Then I collect some fresh tank water. So what you're effectively doing is a water change. So that's fresh water and salt water. I then grab my pipette, and because I've got quite a few babies, I will go ahead and grab 2 pipettefuls. Now I've got a jar full of freshly hatched brine shrimp that I'm going to keep. We then go ahead back here to our hatchery area where I pop my jar. This is connected to my air pump. It is just a simple air stone. That goes in the jar, and then I turn the air on. That will sit there until tomorrow morning when I'm ready to feed the babies their breakfast. All right, now we come over to the sink. I've got my brine shrimp here and my water. Now my salt water, I don't need any more of that, so I'm just going to go ahead and pour that away. If you are pouring salt water down your sink, rinse it because it will rust things. Also rinse out all of your containers because I use these jugs to like catch fish and stuff in as well, so I just make sure she's nice and rinsed. You then want to rinse any excess salt water out of here. So I just put the tap on a little bit like that. Get all the brine shrimp off the sides. And then go ahead just a little bit more and rinse those brine shrimp off, I'm just doing it with tap water. I've never had an issue doing it with tap water. Everyone seems to be fine. They live long enough to be eaten, so they're getting washed off, and now we get to go feed some babies. So they're nice and clean. So let's go feed some fish. So I hope I gave you guys enough information to be able to get started yourself. I've been doing this for such a long time now that it's also sort of become second nature and just part of my routine. And as I mentioned, it is one of the best foods that you can feed your baby fry and of course your adult fish as well. I hope you guys liked it. Hit that like button, subscribe to my videos. I definitely will have more videos like this and more how-tos, tips, tricks, and all those good things. And yeah, I guess I'll catch you on the next one.